Welcome back to News Talk. Coming up for you at the bottom of the hour, reaction to the Pope's statement on abortion and a preview of his visit to the U.S. Right now, though, let's get back to our conversation, our discussion of the immigration debate, birthright citizenship, the topic. John Fear is here, policy analyst at the Center for Immigration Studies. Walter Tejada, a member of the Arlington Board. Great to have you there as well. In fact, I want to go to the phones right now. Our number is 703-387-1020. If you have an opinion to express, this is the forum for it. To the phones we go. Line 2 first. Hello, Sharon in Bowie. You're on the air.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
First of all, they made a statement about the Republicans wanting to change the immigration policy. That's not just the Republicans. I'm Democrat, and I think it needs to be changed. And also, in reference to the 14th Amendment, I feel that it is time to address it, because you can come from any country, have a baby, and you're automatically allowed to stay because your kids are born here. Well, if you broke the law by coming illegally, your kids should not be considered to be U.S. citizens. You knew that when you came across the border, and I feel it's time to address that.
Sharon, thanks. Walter Tejada?
Well, I think that we have a variety of opinions on the subject. Again, we're in the middle of a political campaign. The Republican Party has been tripping over one another, the candidate who can be the most punitive and incite the most anti-immigrant rhetoric. And like we happened in Boston, where a Latino homeless man was attacked by two people who not only beat him up and urinated on him, they claimed that they would agree with Donald Trump and that all illegals should be kicked out. That's their excuse to take action. This is the kind of hateful rhetoric. When people have the public microphone, a public venue, they can broadcast this type of messages. People can take hateful action. And so we need to take a look at what is it that the Constitution says, how it has been challenged before. Again, the United States Supreme Court has affirmed for over 115 years that the language in the 14th Amendment stands for what it says.
Is it unfair to people who are going through the process that our immigration system has laid out to have people do what you and others assert is the reality on the ground?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest underreported stories is the perspective of the legal immigrant who's taking the time and the money and the effort to do it the right way. Suddenly they see the United States welcoming people who are entering by fraud. You know, these birth tourists, they are lying to our visa officials. Everyone agrees to that. And there have been some prosecutions, but really not enough. Again, we estimate there may be up to 36,000 birth tourists every single year. And those kids, they do get the birth certificates, they do get the Social Security accounts, they get the U.S. passports, and the parents look at it as a long-term investment. Those who implicated in the fraud actually get to come back to the U.S. When the kid turns 21. He can petition to bring in his family. And so the parents want to come back for long-term views on this. They want to come back for retirement. The kids want to come back to get the in-state tuition breaks and so forth. And I think it sort of rubs Americans the wrong way.
As I mentioned, we'll go back to the phones. More of your thoughts on this at 703-387-1020. Right now, though, I want to hear more of what we found on the streets of the region as we went out and talked with people about this issue.
It ain't broken, don't change it. I mean, it's not that terrible. I don't see any danger in it. And I think it's some new blood has to come here.
I'm in favor of birthright citizenship, 100%. Well, it's an amendment to the Constitution, so it should stand. I don't think we should change the amendment. It's the 14th Amendment.
Is this the issue, you asserted this a moment ago, Supervisor Tejada, some have said this is a distraction from the much bigger issues that are sort of begging to be addressed. There was a bipartisan bill that came out of the Senate that had that would have done a number of things had it been enacted. It didn't get defeated in the House. It never was brought up for a vote in the House, perhaps because Speaker John Boehner didn't want to put members of his caucus in a tight spot. In any event, is this a distraction from a bigger conversation we could and a more focused effort to deal with immigration broadly?
Sure, it's a huge distraction. And kudos to Donald Trump for turning the race within the Republican Party as a reality national show, as if it were issues of just making statements into the wind without solid policy behind it, something that would stick. He has time and again made all kinds of bombastic comments, and then his colleagues who were competing for the Republican nomination then try to outdo him to see who else can provide more rhetoric that is really not amounting to anything.
Trying to trump Trump, as it were.
Trying to trump Trump, however the case may be. I mean, we held a demonstration here at 12 on Pennsylvania Avenue right after he made his initial statement that he's running for president, attacking immigrants, Latinos particularly, saying how wrong he was and how that needed to be corrected. And one of the things is that when you do things like that, you attract more attention to the person who said that. But on the other hand, silence is betrayal. He's going after making generalizations about Mexicans and Latinos, and it's simply wrong. Instead of focusing on the comprehensive immigration plan that we need to be looking at, when indeed was passed in the Senate by bipartisan measures, not brought up in the House, perhaps because we're afraid that the votes are actually there.
You raise an interesting point. You may have had something else you wanted to say, but is language important? Is tone important in trying to bring the country together on an issue that has always inflamed passion?
Yeah,
I mean, the Mexicans being rapists and some other anchor babies, quote unquote, a term that many find offensive. Is tone and is language important? And have we hurt the process by being careless?
I think tone is important. These are very serious issues Americans want addressed, and yet the opponents of having an honest debate about this, 5 times now I've heard the phrase anti-immigrant. Having a discussion about immigration isn't anti-immigrant. Having mass illegal immigration and saying, you know what, we shouldn't have illegal immigration isn't anti-immigrant. I think tone is important. As far as the people that you interviewed on the streets, they probably don't realize there's about 300,000 to 400,000 children born to illegal immigrants in the U.S. every single year. This has significant social impacts, and it's the result of an illegal entry. They also may not realize that, in fact, when we talk about changing the 14th Amendment, no one's really talking about amending it. The fact is Congress authored that amendment as a way to make sure that slaves that became U.S. citizens after slavery was ended by the 13th Amendment were actually entitled to full U.S. citizenship. To extrapolate that to say it also includes tourists, I think it's a bit of a stretch. I think even those folks would probably agree if they were asked about it.
How would you take this moment where the conversation is being had to craft something that gets at the issues you've raised?
I think that's a great question, because the truth is that if we were to put an end to illegal immigration, we would put an end to this issue of births to illegal immigrants. Really, the problem of birthright citizenship, as some might say it is a problem, is not so much the act of people coming here and having children, it's the act of illegal immigration in and of itself. So you put an end to illegal immigration, you put an end to births to illegal immigrants, you crack down on birth tourism, you put an end to that problem as well. We really just haven't seen enough enforcement, and that's why we're having this debate right now.
Jeb Bush got into a little back and forth, Walter Tejada, with reporters not that long ago when he was pressed by at least one journalist on his use of the phrase anchor baby, and he sort of snapped back and said, well, what phrase would you use? Do you have a better phrase? Do politicians create a tone problem for themselves and perhaps their party when they use language that is patently offensive to some?
Absolutely. There's no question about it. It sets the tone, and it makes people who are watching, who perhaps are not privy to all the details, makes assumptions and cast general nets for people that they refer to. I think in this case, just like Marco Rubio, it seems that somebody was for it just before they were against it. They're changing their tune time and again. And in the case of Jeb Bush, he has, to his credit, his used dignified language in the past when speaking about the subject of immigration. I think it's important that we don't just attack everyone in general. I think you have to recognize when the tone and the language is of a respectful nature, so that we can dive into the meat of the subject and find solutions. In this case, what he said he didn't say is, he'll have to stand for it on his own. But like Marco Rubio, he was for immigration reform, but just before he came running for president, then he became against it to incite the right wing of his party to support a hateful approach that he.
You were nodding. Why?
Yeah, I think that Jeb Bush has flip-flopped all over the place on immigration. I mean, in his heart, he's a mass immigration guy. He supported the immigration bill in the Senate, which not only would have legalized 11 or 12 million illegal immigrants, it also would have doubled legal immigration. And Americans are not calling for massive increases in legal immigration, particularly at a time of high unemployment right now.
We're up on the clock, but I do want to pick up on one more call. We'll jump down to line 4 to hear from Antonia. Real quickly, caller, go ahead. You're on the air.
Yes. First of all, I am an immigrant. I'm a legal immigrant, and I have no problem with children being here, being considered U.S. citizens. What I have a problem with when they come here illegally, and then they have kids here, and then they're automatically U.S. citizens. And I think that's wrong, and I don't think the Constitution was meant to work like that. And saying that, I am not against immigration. It's illegal. And nobody talks about illegal immigration. They lump everything together.
Thank you very much. I'll give you each a couple seconds. That's all I have for any final thought.
The citizenship upon birth is enshrined in the fundamentals of the Constitution. It was designed specifically so those who would not agree on their political whims, they would change it. That's not how it works. This is a difference between the United States, a full democracy and a very civilized country, than others who are taking action as they go. It is a fundamental American value, birthright citizenship.
John?
I think it is a fundamental issue. The question is, what is the scope of the 14th Amendment? And when it was first authored, it did not include American Indians. Congress extended it to include them. If Congress wants to include tourists, children of illegal immigrants, it can do so. It hasn't yet.
John Pierre, Walter Dodd, a great conversation, important issue. Thank you both very much for your time. It's been a pleasure to have both of you here. Thank you very much again. We'll get you caught up on the hour's top stories. We've got the forecast for you. It's all coming next. And then Washington prepares for a papal audience.